What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
All right, Brandon, not a full hour has passed since we lost to Columbus Crew in the first game of the second round of the CONCACAF Champions. What do you think, Brandon? What do you think of today's game?
So it wasn't too bad. I mean, in terms of who we were playing against, I think a lot of people forget that. Columbus won the league last year, and on top of that, have Pucho out there. They had Christian Ramirez. They had a full squad, but at the same time, we're completely depleted. Svetchenko went out early. Bartlow came on. He looked incredible. In fact, he scored an absolute gem that was called off thanks to our friend VAR. VAR came in heavy. They called off a Ramirez goal as well. In the end, they scored a late winner, and that's our MO, right? I keep complaining that we keep giving up late goals, and it comes back to snakebite us again. 96th minute this time. I mean, it was literally in the dying seconds. So it's devastating. We went from, in our last, what was it? I have it written down specific. We lost 3 games in 29 home games last year, and now we've lost 2 straight. So it's one of those things where that's not great, but you have to look at the overall picture. Look at the teams we've played. St. Louis, who won the Western Conference last year. Kansas City, who's always really, really good. And we beat St. Louis and played us and lost to us in the playoffs. And then we lost to Red Bulls, who I also mentioned that was going to be a dogfight of a game. And it was. It came down to turnovers that ended up biting us, and we lost. And of course, an absolute screamer by Morgan puts him over the top. So I said that was going to be tough. And then they also made the playoffs last year, and then we lose to the champions in Columbus at home. It stings, but I'm optimistic, man. With how many injuries and who we're trotting out there, this looks pretty good for what we're doing.
Well, I guess before we really dissect into, because as you said, we do have a depleted team, and it's been teased both on Glenn Davis's show, and even today on Twitter that we have some signings on the way. But before we really dissect into that, we introduced our Ball It Like I See It segment last week. Brandon, how do you feel about doing round 2 this week?
I didn't write one.
All right.
I mean, well, I can say I'll make a hot take of something
Let's hear it.
That Bartlow should start over Svetchenko. I think today it proved he's much more dynamic. He can score offensively, but on top of that, he looks strong defensively. Him and Mikhail have gelled. I like him back there more than I like Svetchenko at this moment. The fact that he got hurt really, really sucks, but we're going to possibly see if I'm proven right here.
So, crucial game you would prefer to have Bartlow over Svetchenko?
At this point, yeah. I think
that is a hot take.
I think right now Bartlow looks faster. He looks more fit. I'm not saying Svetchenko is a bad player, but he does look a step slower, and it's cost us some things. So I'm totally in for putting Bartlow in. I like the young center backs. Having Svetchenko and Steres as replacements, that's pretty good. I like having veterans to help them and grow in their role. I think that's going to benefit us more long-term than right now.
You know, what's funny was that I'm a big Svetchenko guy. I did feel like his goal gave the fans more patience with him, because I felt like the rumblings started with him being a step slower because he hasn't played the way he has last year. I do like what he brings to us as far as captaincy and just leadership back there. But that goal definitely saved him some grace. But I liked what I saw. I honestly feel like we got cheated off of that goal with Bartlow. It's too early. I haven't seen too much yet of a sample size for me to make that claim just yet. But with Svetchenko going down, I hope Bartlow gets some more playing time, gets some more action. I mean, so back to the Ball Like I See It. I feel like you started out hot, so I have some big shoes to fill. I have some quick notes from the Dynamo Red Bull game, and then after the 61st minute they scored, I was over it. But 4th minute, we had a shot from Aleyu. Didn't know you had it in you. 6-minute Koku to Aleyu goal. Please never take Aleyu off the wing. I think that game, that specific play proved to us, don't need that guy off of the wing. 9 minutes, Mikael had a deflection that literally saved our ass, and I thought that was going to be the game-saving play. As we saw, it wasn't the case. Um, 37th minute, a body by our young in Brooklyn Reigns that helped stop the attack. And if you get a chance, go back and look at that. Brooklyn Reigns, our boys growing before our eyes. They say the kids grow up fast. We're starting to see with Brooklyn. I loved what I saw from him that match. 61 minute, we had a pole on pole crime as our Polish midfielder hit the pole and unfortunately didn't go in. It was a beautiful shot, but I was discouraged right after that. Brandon, I think the ball, like I see it, it's a Brandon segment, but I'm glad I
I
could
like,
fill in the
dude,
shoes a little
no.
bit.
I loved your very beginning of it. I think you had it perfectly crafted. With Aliu in you, I'm telling you, you have it going. It's
We
perfect.
might
I
need
just ripped
another
off
sec.
like Stu Gatz just because I'm a huge Levitard show fan, but like that's essentially what it is. But no, I promise you, it was perfectly started. And on top of
Well,
that,
fans,
and your pull on pull crime is actually hilarious as well too.
oh my God. We can't get him to work at all. And then the one episode, he's dropping buttons left
Okay,
and right.
hey, we should cut this, but no, I had it on preview. I was pressing play to try to listen to audio, and it just like wasn't working. Then I switched to live, and it played automatically. And I'm just things
We're
I'm
keeping
very
this in just because you don't
I
like
was
being on,
just
and
gonna
the fans
no,
say,
need
no,
to
no,
hear it.
no.
Yeah.
yeah, that's funnier to keep it on
I'm
too.
gonna give us a bad review on iTunes.
That's fine with me.
Well, folks, let us know what y'all think. I think the way to go to it is we'll probably just assign each other a game, and then that we'll do the ball like I see it segment for the following episode, just based off that. Because yeah, I think it's kind of cool that we both have our different styles, so to speak.
I agree. I will also give another, not necessarily hot take, but I guess a quick one for that. That Bossi and Kowalczyk have to play together and have to figure it out. They both occupy the same space in terms of playing in that mid, but with both of them on the pitch, we can create so much more. We have to be able to have Aliu, Bossi, and Kowalczyk up front, and then Artur and Coco in the like defensive slot there. I think that is probably our best foot going forward until people get healthy. Nepo Baby has been great in terms of hustle, but I don't think he's really our starter, especially our starting striker. He's good off the bench in terms of coming on and getting one of those hustle goals. So I'm happy to move him into that role. But in terms of right now, we have to figure out how Bossi and Kowalczyk can work together.
Yeah, and I mean, based off of Glenn Davis's interview with Pat, it feels like the club feels the same way. I don't think Nepo Baby is the answer up top. I think he was a good backup for Sebas, but to throw him in there with the starters, it's a bit unfair. And the fact that club has outright said it, we're looking for more options, we're looking for more attacks. Brandon, that brings up the next question. If we look for an attacker, do you prefer a DP22 or a U22 initiative? Which way do you think the club's going to go, or do you have a preference?
Um, Gosh, that makes it really tough because my fear is if we go to a U22, we're just going to sign some kid that we are going to all have to look up on YouTube. But if it's a DP22, I think that's a bit more interesting because that person, obviously, we can spend a bit more cash. So I hope we lean more that route. I think that has a bigger impact on this club right now. And especially, you have to also look at as like getting a late transfer window as well. What I mean by that is getting healthy, getting Artur back later on, possibly Sebas as well. Like that could add so much more depth and strength to the squad when the transfer window officially closes.
So that's what concerns me because Pat said that it looks like Sebas is about 4 weeks away from training, which is
Yeah.
about a month, right? Do they want to spend another DP slot on the same position as our biggest DP signing in the club's history? Do you think, in my opinion, it would kind of hesitate the club into signing two DPs for the same exact position? I'm feeling like we're going to go that U22 route over that kid that plays in third division Brazil that we've never heard of, and we're going to have to find grainy footage on YouTube because I don't think Pat wants to spend DP money for the same exact position. It seemed like they have a lot of confidence in Sebas, but man, injuries like that, he's not going to come back immediately and be the same player he was before he got hurt. So that's another thing to take into effect. I like you. I'd prefer to have that DP spot for an attacking piece. having a strong number 9 fixes a lot of problems, and he can put band-aids on a lot of issues that the club has. But I don't know if the club's going to do that just because Sebas was so expensive.
I understand that point, but this team is also built for having possible multiple DP strikers. Sebas doesn't really play the style that Ben truly loves. We're going to see if he was going to adapt to that this year. But it allows for us to have that kid who can start and then Sebas come on 60th, 70th minute. The other thing we're also seeing is a ton of injuries. He just adds depth. This team needs more depth along the way. We play in so many cup games. If we're going to make it in so many cup runs, you're going to need multiple DPs. I mean, think about like how many games we've played in already. I mean, like, that's insane. So I think the depth would be wonderful.
It's funny because I was looking at New York's stats before we played them, and they had only played one other game, and that's kind of
Yeah.
The downfall of doing so well the season prior is that you get in all these tournaments. And as a fan, I love it, but I'm sure we talked about this in an episode in the past with these limited MLS rosters. These guys are really feeling it. Like I was thinking about Coco today. Coco probably had one of his weaker games this evening. And he was still very solid, but I'm like, man, the
He
guy's
looked
been
pretty
putting in
dope, though.
minutes. He was
Yeah,
still
he's been
great,
running a lot.
but yeah, he's put in so many minutes that I'm pretty sure the guy's just burnt out.
I agree. And plus, what's nice too is our second game against Columbus. We don't have a Saturday game, so we have a nice little break here where they do have a Saturday game. So with the 1-0 loss, the only thing is that away goal does sting. But hey, I mean, you never know. Maybe we can catch them on tired legs and sneak something away. I'm a little bit more optimistic. And I'm also going to say, producer Shay, you keep texting for me to read something. I do this on my phone. I tell you that every single time. I can't check text messages, dude.
It costs to have a good producer the same way it costs to have a good DP striker. So I'm starting to feel what Pat's going through. Well, Brandon, like I said, that Columbus game is kind of fresh on all of our minds. Is there anything else you want to add on that? I'm kind of over talking about a loss.
I agree. I think a lot of people, the narrative on Twitter is very negative surrounding this team in terms of like losses, and they just act like the sky is falling, and it's not. Like, we're playing good soccer. This is in terms of what we're trotting out there with no DPs and all these injuries, we're in every single game against top competition. We should feel more, and it's early in the season. I think we should feel more optimistic than like we're ready to jump.
I mean, I agree. My biggest concern is digging a huge hole for ourselves that it's going to be difficult to get out of once everyone's out. It's funny because I want to be part of that Skies Falling group because it's no secret. I'm not the biggest Pat or Ben guy, but man, the injuries just keep piling on. And when Svetchenko went down, I'm like, dude, another guy, another key piece, not just a guy, another key piece. And I want to give those guys a hard time and I want to, rip them, but you have Quinones out. You have Ache out for months, Pat admitted to. You have Sebas out. Now Sviatchenko's out. And I mean, I hate to compare it because it's the EPL, right? But it's like Liverpool has a ton of key guys out right now, but they still produce results. That's the difference between us. And,
a little
yeah,
different.
Like it is a little different, and that's not necessarily comparing apples to apples, but that was my biggest concern with this squad is that I don't feel like we have great depth. I'm worried when the time comes that Ache retires or he doesn't play the way we're used to, because are we built for longevity or are we built for right now with Ache?
I think we have a good 2 to 3 year window where he'll still be relevant and can play. My guess is probably more 2 than 3. So we have a little bit of room. But right now it's still so early in the season. Look where Sporting KC and Seattle were at like this time of the year. They thought the sky was falling too. They were at the bottom of the table. Then they came surging all the way up. I mean, it's one of those. I feel if we were losing like 3-1 and 4-0, then yeah, I'd feel devastated. But the fact that we in the first half have pretty much controlled almost every first half we've played in, this is looking okay. We've played in a ton of games. I'm telling you, man, feel good in Benny Ball and what he's doing with the pieces that he's given and all these injuries. Pat, he's going to have to come through. If this signing here falls flat, then I'm on your train of Pat is out. But if the person is serviceable, then I look at his body of work and I'm going to be okay with them.
Look, I'll never like tell Pat who to sign or how to do his job. All I will say is do not go on YouTube to look up player transfer
I agree,
scouts.
but then the thing is, he's in a no-win situation with you because if he signs somebody good, you're going to be like, oh, it's just that new data team that we've put together. But if they fall flat, then you're like, look at Pat, another decision. So this guy can't win with you, though.
Oh no! I just had to throw in a jab about the Thiago mess. That was a huge mess. But I will say, like, and we talked to this last season. I believe in that data team since they've come on board. I've really liked our pickups. Kowalczyk, I think Svetchenko was another one. Like we've had decent pieces. I mean, even Nepo baby. Like I don't think he was here to be our starting number 9. I think he was a good backup 60th minute substitution piece. But sorry.
But then how aren't you more on his side for then opening up to listening to a data team and not only getting that data, but then executing what it's telling them?
No, I mean my biggest thing was everything prior. There's been some I just don't like today. Nancy was my dream hire for the Dynamo before Ben. I don't like the way the whole Nagamura thing was handled. I don't like the way the whole Ben thing was handled. Ben wasn't a sought after coach. It just felt like, speaking of Nepo babies, it just felt like we were a team that Pat was hiring his buddies.
But he worked out.
How?
We won the U.S. Open Cup. We made the Western Conference playoffs when we were bottom of the barrel. Like, I would say that worked out.
But that's my biggest issue is that I just feel like we got Ache, which I don't think you can really put on Pat. I put that more on our ownership, Siegel. And Ache fixed a lot of problems. Like I don't think Pat did anything wonderful. Now you see Ache is gone, and we spent a ton of money on Sebas, who we loaned out. I feel like there's been more misses than hits. And
you like Artur? You like Nelson Quiones? You like Amin Bassi? You like what he's done with Aliou now? Like, there's a lot to like here.
This is 2 versus 1. This isn't fair.
Sounds like a lot more clapping. That's a long applause, bro. Hey, girl.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, like I like giving him a hard time. Like it's funny in a way, but at the end of the day, like I do like what we've seen after the whole Thiago mishap and Sebas. Like again, like I keep harping over the same mistakes. That means he hasn't made any new mistakes. So like I really can't complain too much. And I feel like this season I've been pretty soft on both those guys because I can't blame them. Like we've had key players getting hurt and it just gets worse. So I mean, yeah, if we hit on a DP striker, if we have a kid that just comes in, and I'll give the man his credit, and you can like tag this, timestamp it so that you can replay it. Like I have no problem. I want to give the guy his props. I just hope they make the right move, man, because and it's funny you said that. We've had control in all these first games, whether it's the CONCACAF Nations League or the MLS season. It's just the same narrative. We don't have that attacking piece that can just put in the back of the net. Once we get that, we could have beaten New York. We could have beaten Columbus if we just had that one killer up top. And so that's a positive, right? Like everything else seems to be working smooth. Defense looks great. I like our play from Escobar, even though it was rumored he wanted out. So I feel like the hard part's been done. We just need that killer up top, and everything else.
Who signed Escobar?
I'm sorry?
Who signed Escobar?
A championship winning right. Look, again, Thiago
and also Svetchenko and re-signed Mikhail and Bartlow and also Coco and Dorsey. There's a point here now, like he's actually keeping these pieces that we all want and also desperately need, and signing them to solid deals. The guy that
I didn't want Coco. I wanted him in Europe. I wanted that money. But look, if signing him can lead to more money, I'm okay with that. I mean, look, Coco is a Matt Jordan. So if you want me to start giving props
But he
to guys for
re-signed Coco and for a good team-friendly deal as well that has options to it. Same thing with Artur, good options for the team. He also signed the kid that was supposed to bounce to Europe from the kid we drafted from Clemson. He also signed him to options where it's team options, so we can decide what to keep for him. So this is a lot of things where, yes, the analytics might be pointing him to players, but a lot of these players have panned out a bit. I'm with you. I do wish we had the killer at the top. It could have been Sebas, but he blew out his hamstring, another injury. We find in Nepo Baby, we plug him, and he scores immediately. He's been a little bit more quiet, but he's still serviceable up there. I'm with you. I would love that DP striker like everybody else, but I think it's wrong that we're not at least very optimistic and seeing the positive in how many things are working out.
Well, something that isn't working out is our attendance. Brandon, what was the
Woof.
deal with today?
Dude, my favorite is the broadcaster for CONCACAF literally talking about how I hope there's a atmosphere going on in Columbus when we go there. And so like he was like, so he called out that. He also just mentioned that no one's in the crowd, and it's exactly right. Now, I was doing the live tweeting as well. My favorite is the person who threw something at Cucho when he was on the field, because probably going to take the security team all 30 seconds to be like, yeah, he's right there, because there's nobody in the stands. So it was quite obvious. There was a little bit of a moment for that.
Might have been the security team.
Yeah, it might have been actually the own promo team. So it was a bad showing, a very, very bad showing. But
I mean, look, like
they haven't been good at a lot of places.
That last game, the 9:00 start, like I get that it's a school day, it's a weekday work day, like that I get. But today, at least half full. I'm not asking for a full stadium, but that was honestly just
Rough.
inexcusable. And I don't know who's to blame at that point. Is it front office for not marketing it? Is it us? Is it blame ourselves kind of deal? That was bad, man. That was bad to look at.
I don't know if you can blame it on marketing, because as much as I wanted to just say, yeah, Clippers against the Rockets on ESPN, but at the same, people were there. I don't want to say that it's bad marketing, because at least from like the CONCACAF side, because when you look at stadiums like Columbus and St. Louis, they're packed, man, but they're always packed. It did look rough in the New England Revolution game. It wasn't very packed there, but they also don't really draw too huge out there in Foxborough. I don't know. That can't continue. That was not phenomenal. I agree with that. That was Naga Bulb days. But
that was Cabrera own coil days. That was bad, man. But look, winning solves a lot. At the end of the day, this team is fun to watch. So I just hope people start showing up, because
hold on. Producer Shay is trying to say, like, yeah, they had less than a week to sell and stuff like that. That's why I sounded so ridiculous slowing down. I'm trying to read what he's sending in. I agree they had less than a week to sell, but at the same time, you also think this is a mimic of what playoffs would be. When you move on in the playoff round, you have a slow window to open up. We should be a fan base that knows that we moved on in CONCACAF and tickets would be available. If that was the case, we should be buying them. Look around at St. Louis, Columbus, all the other big cities that I can name that have good turnouts. Those fans are going to buy tickets if they're moving on. This is a poor excuse to say we didn't have the time. It's just we don't have the passion.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's no connection to this team. I don't buy the time. I don't buy the Rockets. This was a meaningful tournament game.
Yes.
Rockets was a regular season game, and Rockets aren't doing too hot. It's not like they're in the playoff race. No offense, but yeah, it's just there's no connection with the team. You know what upsets me, and I was going to mention this last game. It kills me when you're watching. This happens a lot with the Dynamo, and I'm not going to say it doesn't happen anywhere else, but we're one of those teams where you look into the crowd and you see a lot of America jerseys. You see a lot of Chivas jerseys. You'll see EPL jerseys. You see guys who are just soccer fans there to watch soccer, not necessarily because they're devoted to the Dynamo. That's one thing that I think will hopefully get better with this new ownership group, because we did lose a lot of fans, but we have a lot of folks that go to the game just because it's something to do, not because they're devoted to the team. we're lacking that devotion. We're lacking that connection. A lot of that is front office creating that connection, creating that atmosphere. But yeah, I don't know. I want to say it was a Red Bull game. I just noticed it a few times, and I remember taking that note. Like, man, I'm seeing an awful lot of, and it was America. I saw a lot of America jerseys, and I was like, that's kind of odd. But I do notice that with Dynamo games, you see a lot of other league jerseys, and I mean, it's a good sign that fans are coming in to watch soccer. But how do we get that fan to become a Dynamo fan?
Honestly, as you were saying that, it was the first moment that I thought, is it a mistake that this stadium is located where it's located, meaning downtown? Would it been better located in a suburb around here in Houston? So that way you kind of have that stadium tie in, the team ties into the suburb a little bit more. So say it's like up in the Woodlands or down south in like League City area. That way that community becomes that Dynamo fan. To whereas it's located downtown, we're such a huge population of people just coming in and out for business meetings that it's more likely that we're going to draw the random guy that appreciates soccer that lives in Portugal, but he's here on oil and gas business for the weekend. And hey, the Dynamo are playing. So he might pop in, but that's not a fan we can rely on. You know what I mean? I think that's what we kind of draw to our stadium a lot of the times is the occasional, hey, I just want to pop in and it's right here. To whereas if the stadium might have been located somewhere else different in Houston, you might have had a better tie-in with a more of a neighborhood feel.
How much did the Space Cowboys pay you for that little rant?
Right? Well, the thing is look what happened, man. We were a local team that got bought by the big boys. So, I mean, we didn't come to them and say, "Hey, we're for sale." They came to us, you know. So, like,
But then I believe but then an argument could be like, look at FC Dallas because they're way out there and they really haven't gotten that
Frisco's growing.
support.
That suburb is growing. So, like, give it some time, and it might get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you
And their
do have
stadium
a.
sucks.
What do you mean the soccer? What is it? The soccer museum or whatever? BS.
It, yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a trash stadium.
it's tough. So I think if they did have a better looking stadium that was more modern, they might have a better turnout on that too.
Speaking of, have you seen New York's renderings?
For what, New York FC or
Yeah,
FC
their stadium.
YFC? I saw early ones. Did they do new ones?
Oh man, when you get a chance, jump on Twitter, look at the Cube, New York, the Cube. It's
Oh wow.
insane. Like these things are just getting bigger and nicer. Like you're greeted by this huge like LED tunnel. It's sick, man. Check it out.
Huh.
But yeah, I think to your point, I mean, you do have a point there. For me, I think there's just no connection to the Dynamo. If you ask a fan, like aside from the support groups, Hustle Town, if you ask just a casual guy, like, oh, what does the Dynamo mean for you? Like my cousin, for example, he started taking his little boy there, and he's like, oh, he's going to Dynamo games now because his kid's into soccer.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that emotional attachment, and I think hopefully that's something we do over time. Because, like, look, it's no secret. The last decade or so, we were ran by some basketball folks, guys who didn't really care about the team, an owner who just saw this as an investment. So once we start getting soccer folks in here, I think it'll get much better. But we have to fix old relationships that were lost, as well as start new ones. But I think the game is growing, soccer's growing, MLS is growing. So I mean, it's good that we have a stadium, a fun team to watch, a better team, an owner willing to invest. So hopefully, we start getting those fans that are attached to the team.
Give it time, man. I mean, it's one of those that can grow, and we just need a more wild fan base there, and I think we'll be okay. But the Hustletown brings it. That's not what I don't think you and I ever mean when we allude to a more
No,
wild
we have
fan
one of
base.
the better ones, to be honest.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. That's never our prerogative. It's the when we have to fill in the corners and the sides. That's what we're talking about. Where we need other fans that can sing and sing along with us, not just chant "Let's go Dynamo."
All right, Brandon. Well, let's move it on to one of our favorite segments, Ballin' Around the Globe, where we take a soccer story from somewhere around the globe and bring it to you the way we ball listeners. Brandon, you want to kick it off this week?
Ballin' Around the Globe.
I will. We're going to go to Europe, and we're going to spread throughout Europe here. And the reason is we're going to talk about the Champion League's anthem. So, Jamal, I'm going to ask you here, do you know any of the lyrics?
None.
Besides probably
I
the
know
most famous.
champions.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here you go. Here's all the lyrics, and I'm obviously not going to sing them because I don't really know except for the champions. So they are the best teams. They are the best teams. The main event, the master, the best, the great teams, the champions, a big meeting, a great sporting event, the main event, the master, the best, the great teams, the champions. They are the best. They are the best. These are the champions, the master, the best, the champions.
God,
And
the whole time I'm hearing it in that that voice.
yep, I
Oh
had
my, how did I
no
not
idea
know
that.
that?
I said the same thing because like it was so funny because as I was like trying to find something here, I heard the song and then I was starting to look and I was like, wait, there's lyrics, and it just kind of took me down a rabbit hole. I learned all about like where the song came from and who composed it, but that's boring as can possibly be. I was mainly just cracking up at who the guy wrote that. So there you go. We
Is
learned
there
something today.
is there writing credits to that?
Yeah, so like some like French writer like put it together. So like they have it translated in like 6 different languages. And so some of it, as you're reading through it, for a moment I felt crazy because I was like, what am I reading here? But then you start to scroll down and it gives you the full translations there. I'll
That's
find the
funny
article and I'll
because,
send it to you.
well, now that I'm thinking about it, because I always thought the girl was just like humming, like,
Yeah, I had
you
no
know, like,
idea. Yeah.
oh man, that is
So there
hilarious.
you
You see,
go. Now
folks,
we all know.
listen to the way we ball, you learn something new. Well, all right, Brandon. I had 2 stories. I was gonna wait to see where this conversation was gonna lead to see which one was appropriate, and I think I have an appropriate story for you. So, our um, our story takes us all the way to Germany to the Bundesliga, where the Bundesliga's bottom club Darmstadt lost 6-0 at home to Augsburg. Brandon, we talked about Hustletown and our support groups and how we have some of the better support groups. Well, at full time, the club's ultras went onto the pitch to address the players in front of the stand. They're 12 points from safety with 10 games left to play. Brandon, what do you think in a world where, I don't know, let's say El Batallon was able to walk down to the pitch and give Ben an earful after today's match against Columbus? Is that something you'd be all about?
I would fear for Ben if that was the case. No, I don't think that should be the MO. Like fans should not be going down and giving their piece in that case. There's so many other moving parts behind that equate to a lot of things. It's so tough because as a fan, when you buy that ticket, of course, you're giving your money and you want to voice your support. But, you know, we all know what it's like to be on the other side as well and work in that front office. And there's reasons and excuses for a lot of things.
Yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway about that story, like, of course, I don't ever want to live in a world where the fans
Yeah.
can go out to the players and, scold them, because a lot goes into it, right? Like, nobody's going to get on the field to lose. Like, everybody wants to win. For me, the biggest takeaway was we talked about that connection with the team, and places like this is what I say, 5th division. I mean, this is lower than USL 2. This is like low, and the fact that you have ultras for these kind of teams and they're investing their time and they're so passionate, that they're going down there and scolding the team, so to speak. For me, it just shows that passion, and I just hope there's a day where we get that passion, not just with Dynamo, but even like Dynamo 2 or Dynados, these UPSL teams that are in the Houston area. I hope there's a day where we get that.
The one thing I will say is where we had that passion was with the Fire Matt Jordan. Not only because like obviously again we're not alluding to Hustletown, but when the Surge brought out that sign that said Fire Matt Jordan, my favorite thing when producer Shay and I were going to the games and we had like the questions that would get thrown up on the board and you had to have like a login name to play the game. Every person that was up in the top 10 for score was Fire Matt Jordan, Fire Matt Jordan, Fire Matt Jordan, Fire Matt Jordan. So it was so funny to always see that. That was a moment where all the fans came together and was like, this guy needs to go. I'm with you. I wish it didn't came to that point where we have to be trapped for 10 years for everybody to finally keep screaming. But yes, I think we lack that type of passion where the fans would be necessarily on the pitch screaming.
Did Matt Jordan bring this club together more than ever when we were trying to get rid of him?
I mean, Yes, and also I think the supporter groups would be like, no, there's a reason why
Yeah,
we moved.
no kidding. Alrighty, Brandon. Well, that's it. Let's pack up our bags and come back home and finish it up with our ball in or ball out, where we throw up topics and say whether we're for them, ball in, or against them, ball out. Brandon, do you have this week's topics?
Producer Shay.
Ball in or ball out.
I wish we had some music for balling around the globe. That would have been great.
So true. He still has that beat going. Beat's back.
He steamrolled right into that last segment. That's why.
Hey, the beat. Oh, yeah, true. All right. So, first question for you. Carry on. First question for you. So, this one is kind of, again, alluding to something a little bit different here. I want to grow the game. So, college soccer conference champions get to play in the U.S. Open Cup, meaning they get to qualify, go through the ranks too. So, it's not every college school, except for just the top college conference winners. They get to qualify and play in the U.S. Open Cup. Ball in or ball out for that?
I'm going to have to go ball out. The only reason being that a lot of NPSL teams use college players for their club. So that's going to kind of throw things off. And I just love the current format of the Open Cup. So just because of the history of it all, I would have to go ball out, because I love the idea of having these college kids come play pro bono for NPSL clubs and then returning to their school afterwards. So ball out for me. I'm a traditionalist.
Ball in.
I feel like, before you even answer, based on your ticket suggestion last week, I should already know what your answer is going to be.
Bro, that was a huge success. So first of all, ball in, because on top of that, I want to grow the college game. They get NIL deals. This would allow them to really promote themselves on a professional scale, to where they can, again, promote their brands. It also entices kids to come to colleges and also really be able to play. I want to keep kids in America growing this sport and not have to rely on Europe to develop our best talent. If this starts to open up the door to where colleges can be good enough to where we open it up to all colleges joining the U.S. Open Cup, that would be incredible. That should be the end goal here. That's going to be the new NCAA. That the one thing that can challenge like college football would be this: how you can slowly start to integrate semi-professional amateurism, as you want to umbrella it, into the professional ranks. This would be incredible.
But if you're an athlete and you're good enough to play in Europe, are they even going to college? I don't think our best soccer players are going to like,
and that's
just like
my
basketball.
argument.
So how would this entice them?
Because now you get to actually play with the professional ranks that I'm hoping that your NIL deals will go up. So this isn't the case of where you're trying to keep more kids home. So the kids don't always just jump to Europe. My hope is that 16-year-old who probably has never been to Europe in his life, I hope isn't having to pick everything up and move there. Rather than, if there's a way to keep him home and around his family and grow his game that way, and it's just a matter of money. If this can do that and start to slowly be a window to opening up more money for that, why not?
I feel so. I just feel very jaded with like NCAA, and I just feel like football's too big of a monster.
Well, they're gone. I mean, they're going to be gone. There's no way they're going to be able to continue this, because they really have no ruling, since most of this stuff is kind of patrolled by the own state in terms of how they get NIL deals and how they're going to punish it. So they can't really, if they can't condone punishments, what can the NCAA do? So this is one of those things where they're probably going to start to disband. It will become like a governing body. So what you're probably going to have is the college football community. It will probably become what the NCAA is. So if a team is out of line, they can correct them, etc. So like, if the NCAA is kind of going away, in this case, how is soccer going to survive? How are we going to make money off of it? This isn't just for the men's game as well. We also have to think for what's going to grow the women's game. We're talking about how we're getting killed around the world. We just lost to Mexico. Yeah, we took it to Colombia, but we're not winning the World Cups the same way. The other leagues are growing. This would have a way for women's soccer to be able to thrive and also make money and compete in a different way. My whole thing is just, how do we continue to keep talent here and not have to ship it off?
I'm all about my tradition. Keep your fancy schmancy rules out of here. All right, Brandon. Let's move on to. So we are one ball in, one ball out. Let's move on to topic 2.
So in this case, this one just came out where it was interesting. Mukhtar and Wagner are about to be United States men's national team eligible. You ball in or ball out on them joining the United States men's national team?
I guess I'm ball in for like those like meaningless games where we put in our C team, but as far as like competing for starting 11 World Cup, I'm ball out. I like the guys that we currently have. I like all of our European kids, which you you just went off about not doing that. But yeah, I like the squad we have. I don't see Mukhtar or Wagner bringing anything to the table that our current squad doesn't bring. So, ball
Yep,
out.
that was exactly going to be my take as well. So I won't drone on and just repeat. I think they're great for C games and provide depth, but outside of like growing, no, they're in like their 30s. They're not going to provide anything come around World Cup, at least meaningful moments.
I mean, I know Kai Wagner, but what's Mukhtar's other
They're
nationality?
both German.
Mukhtar too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, what are you
Sorry,
insinuating that, huh?
No. Just like because I was
He
thinking
can't
like
be German.
No. Like just that. I was better luck at the dual national, but
Oh,
if they're not getting in with RC team, they're definitely not getting in with Germany.
no. So that's one of those things where they have probably a chance, but I don't know. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting call-ups to have them up there. At least we wouldn't need like Jesus Ferreira to do absolutely nothing. All right, next question. Ball in or ball out, being the home team in the first leg. And not just recency biasy.
Of like any competition?
In terms of obviously soccer. Not like basketball and baseball, etc.
No. But like Open Cup, World Cup. You're saying in general across the board, or like MLS?
Oh, so like being in terms of like Champions League, like you host the first leg, or even tonight, right? CONCACAF Cup, like we're hosting first leg, and then the second leg is in Columbus. Are you ball in on you want to be the team that hosts the first leg?
Got it. Yeah. No, ball out on that because I'd like to see where kind of like today we know what we have to do as far as the away goals. Like we lose 0-1, it's not the end of the world, but I would prefer to be playing at home knowing what we know tonight. So I'm all over the place. Ball out on being home first. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, especially because, like, one, look at what Liverpool did against Barcelona and that absolute comeback in the Champions League where we just had to win 4-0 and did. So, like, and we got to host that second scenes, right? But I also look at today where the Revolution won today 4-0 at home over a team in Costa Rica. And so you can kind of really rest your guys and a lot of ways park the bus. So to me, when I think about this team with all of our injuries and our depth, I apply, even if we were fully healthy, I'm starting to see it more as a coach now that I think I might be more ball in and let's get the first home game because let's try to score as many goals as possible. So that way all of you can kind of chill on the bench unless it's desperate time. So I think hosting the first game now has bigger leg than knowing what I need to do in the second leg, if that makes sense.
How nice it must have been to play a Costa Rican
Yeah, right.
club instead
There
of
is a way we can play this entire tournament without having to play a team that's
all
not in the
MLS,
MLS.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like there goes the fun in that. I saw that. I hope that doesn't happen, but now it's like,
God,
well, let's
no,
just
that'd be
worry about
miserable.
advancing. Let's just worry
100%.
about advancing now. So, well, all right, Brandon. I think that is it for.
I've actually got one more for you here. And
Oh,
this is
okay.
also a reaction to tonight and over time, because Clark made a very peculiar move tonight.
Oh
He
my
came
God.
running out of the box and almost cost us a game before we ended up losing. But it was just like, what happened? We've had one clean sheet where we won 1-0 over St. Louis. That's it. So ball in, ball out. It's time to move on from Clark.
I think we've talked about it before. I really like our academy kid, Diego. But
Valdez.
Valdez, but I think that's something that slowly has to be integrated. I don't know what the hell that move was today. That was such a boneheaded move. I'm ball out on doing it immediately, but I'm ball in by season's end, having him slowly integrated out of first team.
I'm starting to wonder if all these late goals, everything like that, they seem to happen a lot on his watch. And I'm wondering if there's a connection. And he makes some insane saves that are, you're just like, oh my God, Steve Clark, he's standing on his head. But then he also has these moments where today, what the hell was that? I'm sorry, I'm absolute shock from that. But it just hasn't looked the same. Maybe that is our defense and not having Ache out there. There's 100% excuses you can have. But we have been constantly, and I'll keep saying this one, giving up late goals. And I don't know if it is Ben and his substitutions or if it's the way Steve Clark is kind of setting everybody up from the very far back. But there has to be something. And I don't know. I'm not saying it now, but I think fans, we need to put Steve Clark on watch.
Yeah, that was like literally inexcusable. So I'm surprised Tarbell didn't get more playing time with the first couple rounds of the CONCACAF. Now with this winner go home, I don't see him playing at all that second game against Columbus, but would like to see from him. Hopefully they get Diego Valdez into that lineup too a little bit, because as far as attributes, that kid has everything you want in a starting goalkeeper. But we'll see. Well, Brandon, that is it for this week's episode. This Sunday, 10:45. You'll never walk alone. But aside from that, until next time, I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon. And this is The Way We Ball.